account and everything set up for financial aid. And so once you get here, you're going to want to go ahead and log in. And you're going to want to log in with your PUNet ID and password that you've made for Pacific. And then once you actually are logged into your BoxerOnline account, you'll see a whole bunch of different things here on the screen, right? And like I said, BoxerOnline is going to be where a whole bunch of your information and things are going to exist for your time as a student. For today, we're going to want to be focusing on this Manage My Financial Aid tab in this screen here. And if you click Manage My Financial Aid, it's going to take you to what we call your financial aid self-service. And financial aid self-service, just like BoxerOnline, is going to be a screen that you're going to spend a lot of time in as a student, making sure that you've got all of the correct financial aid information set, that you've gone through and done everything that you're supposed to before school starts in the fall, as well as get everything just finalized for your time here at Pacific. And one thing I always really like to emphasize when folks are looking in self-service is you see here on the screen, you can select an award year. Always double check when you're looking at information that you are in the correct award year, right? So for folks who are looking for fall 23 and spring 24 info, it should automatically throw you into the 23-24 award year, which for this school year is great. No, as a coming student, sometimes it might throw you into a different year later on. So just make sure you know how to navigate to whatever award year you want to get into when you're looking at this screen as well. Another super helpful thing about self-service is I'm going to show you kind of all of the different components to self-service and these different screens that you can navigate to. If you click this financial aid counseling blue tab at the top of the screen that I've highlighted here with the circle, it'll actually allow you to shortcut to a whole bunch of the screens that I'm going to show you how to access here below. So just make sure as you go through, you know how to access these screens and get to each of these quicker than just scrolling through and looking for them. So a large portion of what you're going to actually see in your financial aid self-service is what we call the financial aid checklist. And the financial aid checklist is essentially a list of things to complete and finalize before you arrive here as a student at Pacific, and potentially before you deposit as a student with Pacific University as well, right? So you can see on here on the checklist, there are items that are green and items that are yellow that say action needed. And the goal is, by the time that you arrive here as a student, you've got all of these things green and completed. And we always recommend folks have this checklist complete as soon as possible, right? I think having financial aid information finalized as early as possible is the best for not only for you all, because you know the kind of situation and what your situation with financial aid looks like at Pacific, but also for us, we know that everything that you need to do is set and finalized, and there's nothing that we're waiting on as far as financial aid eligibility for the coming year as well. And we'll talk about each of these individual things going down from here too. One other thing I always also really like to highlight is you'll notice on the right-hand side of the checklist, a couple of different links that are super helpful in regards to financial aid. And so the big one that I want to highlight here is a link to our privacy release form. And incoming students, one important thing to note is that if you have parents or family members or guardians that you want us to be able to chat with once you are an admitted student that has arrived at Pacific University, they'll need to complete, or you will rather need to complete one of these privacy release forms to give them authorization to get specific financial aid info for our office. So for now, parents, it's totally fine. We can chat with you and get into the nitty-gritty revolving financial aid throughout the summer. But as soon as students are enrolled here at Pacific, per FERPA guidelines, we need to get that privacy release form from students to share specific financial aid info as well. So always recommend that that's another thing that folks get in order as soon as possible, just so that there's no confusion or frustration, right, when folks are looking to get info from our office in the fall as well. You'll also see with the links, direct links to the web pages for the FAFSA application, plus loans, private student loans as well. So just a whole bunch of super helpful info there to keep in mind as you're going through and looking at this checklist as well on self-service. As you're looking through the self-service checklist, something that some of you might see are required documents for our office. So sometimes in financial aid, students are either selected for what's called verification by the Department of Education, where our office is required to collect additional documentation to finalize financial aid info. Or if there's anything outside of verification that our office needs from you as well to finalize financial aid eligibility, that will all exist here in the required documents section. Make sure as you look through this that you're clicking on these links directly to these forms. This will take you exactly to either where you can get this form, request it, or a direct link to fill this form out as well. So just make sure if you're looking at that checklist and required documents has a yellow action needed item next to it, you're checking what documents our office needs and getting those to us as soon as possible so you can get a clear picture of your financial aid situation here in the fall. Next, as you continue down the checklist, will be the option to accept or decline your financial aid award. And so when you click in this screen, what it's going to show you is a breakdown of every single financial aid award offered to you on your financial aid package. It's broken down first by scholarships and grants. So if you start at the top of this, you'll see the scholarships and grants that you're eligible for through Pacific University. Again, scholarships and grants, funds that you do not have to pay back, right? And so what students do is they will go through and either accept or decline each of these awards. But one thing that's helpful to note is you see there that little arrow with the accept or decline. If you click on that, you'll be given not only the option to accept it, but it'll also show you a little bit more about eligibility in regards to the awards. And sometimes it'll show you additional eligibility for renewal criteria to keep getting that award as well. So just make sure as you're going through and looking at all the scholarships and awards you're eligible for, you know the renewal criteria and what you need to do as a student to continue receiving that financial aid your entire time here at Pacific University, right? Scrolling further down the review and accept awards, you'll see broken down by loans, right? So this is where your federal student loan eligibility will be shown, and loans, funds that you have to pay back, right, to the federal government with your loan servicer. Same deal as before, students will want to go through and either accept or decline these resources. And then here at the bottom as well, it'll show you the total amount of financial aid offered for the entire year as well. One super important thing to note is if there are required documents that our office is still waiting on from students, certain awards that are estimated cannot be accepted until we get that documentation. So if our office is waiting on something for, say, verification, certain awards in your financial aid package will be shown as estimated, meaning that you cannot accept or decline those awards until our office gets all of the documentation that we need from you as well. So another way to know is if you have things that our office needs is if you're trying to accept some of your awards and it's just not letting you, it's potentially the source that we need information from you to finalize that financial aid as well. One thing I also really like to highlight is for students who are going to be accepting any of their federal student loans, there will be 2 additional items on the checklist that they'll need to complete. These are called completing direct loan entrance counseling, as well as what's called a master promissory note. And with both of these links, if students click on that, it'll take them directly to where they can complete both of these items within federal student aid website. And so clicking on, for example, loan entrance counseling is going to take students to this external site. Students will log into their FSA ID and go through and complete entrance counseling. And with entrance counseling, I like to describe it as it's sort of a student loan crash course, right? So it'll get students a whole bunch of information on their federal student loans, info about repayment, as well as additional information in regards to eligibility for the loan too. So students who are going to be accepting federal loans will need to go through and complete this item as well. Next, there's the master promissory note. The same deal as before, students will log on to their FSA ID and go through and complete that master promissory note. And the master promissory note is a legal document with the Department of Education basically stating the terms of the loan and saying that the student, understands that these are federal student loans and that they need to be repaid. So 2 super important items to complete if students are going to be accepting federal student loans. Additionally, I always like to show if people are trying to navigate to either of these pages just within federal student aid without going through that self-service, if people highlight that loans and grants tab at the top of the screen, they'll see on the left side here links to complete the master promissory note and the loan entrance counseling. One thing to be aware of is the Department of Education really likes to change this website from time to time, right? So this is where they exist as of now. If that changes in the coming years, we'll make sure to update where that information can be found on our website as well. But just know that if you're looking for it through federal student aid now, that is where that information is going to be found. outside scholarships. So in Boxer Online, there is a field to report any outside scholarships that students know that they're getting. So say, for example, students have been applying to a bunch of outside scholarships, whether that's through their high school or through additional outside organizations or potentially folks as employers. When they go to financial aid counseling, that blue tab on the top there, they'll be able to click report outside awards and it'll take them to this screen. And what you can do is you can add any outside scholarships that you're receiving. What will then happen is our office gets notice of that outside award and we add it to your financial aid package as a pending outside resource so that you can see the entire picture of your financial aid for the coming year, including any outside scholarships that you're getting as well. So an super important thing to know for folks who are applying to a ton of outside scholarships and looking for resources outside of the Pacific and federal and state ecosystem as well. The last thing on the checklist is going to be review and sign the offer letter for the year. And so this is the step that really finalizes financial aid for the year as far as accepting it and getting everything set to post to your student billing in the fall. A couple of really important things I like to highlight on the screen is you see there on the left under 2324, there's sort of a blue page icon next to offer letter, and clicking this is going to download a PDF of that offer letter. And I find it's really helpful to download PDFs for folks who are potentially sending info to parents, or if you want to keep these offer letters kind of for your own records, it's super helpful to have a downloaded copy on your end as well. Next, on the right-hand side, you see offer letter history. So in this student's example, they've only received one offer letter, so there's only one offer letter shown. However, for folks who potentially have had changes to financial aid, either throughout the year and throughout the summer, they'll be able to go back and view any previous offer letter that's been sent. So if there is a change and students want to see, hey, what was the change between these offer letters, folks can kind of look and compare there as well. Another thing I also like to highlight here is, like I mentioned before, with selecting an award year, if in coming years you want to look back at any financial aid offer letters from previous years, if you select the previous award year, you'll be able to see all of the offer letters from that year as well. So really great to have all of this information kind of broken down, as well as past information if you want to compare offer letters even from year to year, right? So a super important thing to be aware of as well. And when students are on this screen, if they scroll all the way down, will be the section to review and sign their offer letter. And that's one thing I know can be confusing. It's not always super clear that the point to actually sign this offer letter is on the bottom of this page. So as you're looking through and you can't see anywhere to sign, what you'll need to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, review all of the awards offered, look at the entire offer letter, and then you'll see these financial aid award terms and conditions. Just make sure you review these as well before you sign your offer letter for the year. You'll notice this little message down here as well, says you must accept or decline all of your awards before signing your offer letter. So if you haven't accepted or declined all of your awards, you're not going to be able to sign your offer letter for the year, right? And that's another super important thing to know, right? So if you have estimated awards that you can't accept yet, because our office is waiting on some documentation from you, just know that you'll need to go through and complete that checklist and complete the rest of the steps required to sign that offer letter for the year with our office as well. And I think as far as presentation to show, that's everything I have on my end. I, again, just always really like to highlight that, you know, financial aid is a lot. That was a lot of information. There's a lot of moving parts in financial aid. And so I think it's just super important to know that there are folks here that are a resource to help you throughout financial aid as well. When you're a student, regardless of your year, right? I'm always going to be folks as financial aid counselor. Stacey's always going to be folks as financial aid counselor. So just know that the resources are there, and we want to hear from y'all and do everything we can to kind of help support you through the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Griffin. I know that was a lot of information. And I do apologize for the families who are watching the recording of this. I forgot to hit record until Griffin was about into his first slide here. So if you're joining us on YouTube, I apologize. This is our Lunch with the Boxer session with financial aid. And the beginning was just kind of introductions and talking about how this will work. So we usually have a presenter and afterwards we'll take questions. And so we are moving on to questions at this point. We've got a few that came in. And the first one, I'm just gonna kind of go in order in which these questions came in, but I am moving this question up to the front. how do we get to the financial aid section of the website? So I believe they might have come to the session a little bit late. Can you just go over one more time where they can view the financial aid section for this?
Yeah, so when folks log into their Boxer Online, they're going to see a couple of different submenus, and what people want to click on is Manage My Financial Aid in that Boxer Online. It'll be on the left side of the screen, and clicking on that is going to take you to that financial aid checklist that I was showing through there.
Perfect. And then we got a couple questions about how to get access to the online Boxer account and when that should happen. And Shelley and Leslie put in some great information. When the student was admitted, there was an email that was sent kind of almost immediately following, prompting students to click on a link to set up the Boxer account. I do know that that link does have an expiration kind of time of 14 days, I believe. So if your student has not been able to set up a Boxer Online account yet, you can go ahead and email our tech help desk at help@pacificu.edu, or you can give them a call at 503-352-1500 and let them know that you are a prospective student and you need access to your Boxer Online account, and they'll be able to send you an updated link to be able to create your Boxer Online account and view those financial aid packages. So should they make the Boxer account now, or should they wait once they've accepted and committed to Pacific? When is a good time for them to make a Boxer Online account, Griffin?
As soon as possible. So you will get that information once you get admitted, and like Gina said, that link will expire eventually. So as soon as possible at this point, right? We want to make sure you can get access to that information and view everything that you need to do as soon as possible at this point. So yeah, as soon as you're able to get in there, the better.
Perfect, thank you. And then I know you touched a little bit on verification, and this is something that comes up every year. Families kind of start to panic, or it's like, my account is being flagged for verification. What is verification, and why does it happen, and what do they do at that point?
Yeah, so verification is a process by which the Department of Education selects certain FAFSAs for manual review regarding some information. In regards to why certain ones are selected, that's information that can be a little tricky to pin down sometimes. I know, at least in what I've seen, and Leslie, feel free to hop on if you have anything else to add, a big factor for them is at least looking at the data retrieval tool within the FAFSA, whether that was used can be a factor as well. But a super important thing to know is that being selected for verification that is not the same thing as being audited by the IRS, right? I know that's a big concern folks have. They're like, why do I need to submit this documentation? Essentially, the only thing that verification is confirming is that what's entered on the FAFSA was accurate for folks. And so it's really determining financial eligibility for federal and need-based aid, right? And verification isn't a factor at all for things like your merit scholarship through Pacific, your senior preview day scholarship, and things like that. So.
Perfect, thank you. I know. And does that mean if they do get flagged for verification, they have to, can they ignore it, or can they?
No, some folks do, but that is not something I would recommend, right? We want to make sure that when you're here in the fall, everything has been set in regards to financial aid, and we don't have a situation where you come to our office and are wondering what's going on and why your financial aid isn't posting to your account, right? So I want to make sure if you are selected for verification, you're going through and completing those steps with our offices as soon as possible, because that benefits you all and benefits students in the long run to get it done as soon as they can.
And one thing I'll just add, Griffin, is that if you're selected for verification at Pacific, there's a 99.9% chance that you've been selected for verification at other schools. Your FAFSA is flagged for what is called verification. That's a federal process. And so if you've sent information to one school and you're considering other schools, you should send that information to all of the different schools so that they all have that information. Occasionally Pacific will, excuse me, ask a question that we may be confused about, but for verification, I'm sorry, that's usually based on your FAFSA.
Thank you. The next question about FAFSA is, does the FAFSA have to be updated every year, and when should the updates happen for FAFSA?
Yes, yeah. So folks who want to continue to be eligible for federal aid and need-based aid at Pacific, yes, you will need to go through and do the FAFSA every year. Typically, the FAFSA opens prior to each academic year, October 1st. That date is flexible and can sometimes change, but for the most recent history, it's opened on October 1st. And that would be, so for example, this coming fall, the FAFSA will open on October 1st for the next school year, right? So this coming fall, the FAFSA for 24-25 will open. And so folks who want to continue to be eligible for federal aid at Pacific, yes, you'll want to make sure you get on and complete that FAFSA as soon as you're able to, prior to whenever it opens. At Pacific, we do have a priority deadline for the FAFSA for our continuing students of March 1st. So for folks who want to potentially continue to be eligible, if you're eligible for federal work study, we always have folks finish that FAFSA prior to March 1st. For folks who are entering students, if you haven't done a FAFSA at this point, that's totally okay. There's still tons of time to do a FAFSA for this coming fall. So if you haven't done one yet, I always recommend and encourage folks to do one. But just know, yes, you will be needing to do them in the coming years as well. The good news is it gets a little easier in the coming years. You don't have to put in as much information as you did the first time through. You can do what's called, the Department of Education calls it a renewal FAFSA, and it'll actually pull through a bunch of the personal identification info that you've gone through and entered the first time through, so you don't have to put in, you know, things that haven't changed, like names, addresses, and things like that. And then the only thing that typically you'll be updating would be potentially tax and income information as it changes from year to year.
Thank you. And just to confirm one more time, the checklist on the BoxerOnline account for the financial aid, that shows everything that the student's missing, and if it's green, when should they expect the package to be ready for review?
Yeah, so if you're talking about the actual financial aid package to be sent, BoxerOnline and the steps through BoxerOnline come into play once that is received. And then the process of going through your checklist in BoxerOnline is finalizing what you've seen on your financial aid package. If there are folks here who haven't potentially gotten a financial aid package yet, just I'd say keep an eye out for it. And when you do receive it, know that there'll be steps on there to go through and complete the process, and you'll see everything that you need to do on that checklist.
Perfect. And then can parents apply for a subsidized or an unsubsidized loan? That is a great question.
Yeah, great question. So the answer for that is no. There is what's called the Federal Direct Parent Plus loan. And so this is also, like the Federal Direct Subsidized and Unsubsidized loan, a federal loan. This, however, is taken out by the parents of dependent students up to whatever the remaining cost of attendance is minus any financial aid received. So there is a loan opportunity for parents. It's going to exist in its own application and separate from the subsidized and unsubsidized loan. And actually what I'm going to do is I'll put in a link just to the federal information page with info about the Parent Plus loan as well as the application. And a good thing to know is if you're looking to apply to the Parent Plus loan for this coming fall, the Plus loan typically opens, I think, Leslie, is it April, sometime in April and May for the coming years, typically when the Plus loan is going to open. So just know that if you're going to apply for that Plus loan, that's when you can start looking at the application.
April 24th.
April 24th.
Right on the dot. Thank you, Leslie. The next question that we have, and for those who are watching the link, I will also add it into the YouTube comments, kind of in that area, the video description area, so you will have access to the links that are being sent into this chat box here. Are there many work study opportunities available on campus for incoming freshman students? How does work study work? What if they don't have work study? What do they do?
Yeah, all great questions. And yeah, so federal work study, and first of all, I'll start doing is just, I'll explain for folks who potentially don't know what federal work study is. So folks who, as determined by the FAFSA, are eligible for federal work study can work in specific work study jobs on campus. And so these are student employment positions where students can get paid up to $3,000 in federal work study funds, and those funds go directly to the student. And so students can, if you see federal work study on your financial aid package, that's how you'll know that you're eligible to work a work study job. And even for students who don't see that on your financial aid package, know that there are what are called non-work study jobs at Pacific that are specifically for non-work study eligible students. And so there is a whole bunch of jobs open for freshmen when they arrive here. And the nice thing about student employees is they're super, super flexible in regards to your schedule, right? You are all going to be students. Some of you are going to be athletes, so you might have practice schedules, game schedules, and you all have other stuff going on too. So the nice thing about employers on campus is they're super flexible with building a work schedule that's a good fit for you. And I actually just looked, we were having a conversation earlier today about work study, and I was looking on our student job portal. And right now, for students, both between federal work study and non-work study jobs, it looks like there's about 120 positions open right now. And that's in the middle of spring semester, right? So there's always stuff open. Folks are always looking to hire students, and students who are looking to work typically have a pretty good shot at finding something that's a good fit for them. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, we do have a lot of different work study positions available. We will actually also have a job fair at the beginning of each semester. I think they usually try to give everybody that first semester to get used to all the classes and stuff. And the club and job fairs will typically happen the following week, usually around the second week of the semester. And there's big posters all around campus letting students know that this event is happening. And we usually have tabling out in kind of like the larger field. If it's raining, we'll have it indoors at the UC area. So students can't really miss the job fairs that are coming up. So we do have job fairs that we do offer for our students at the beginning of each semester, but just like Griffin said, there's still jobs in the middle of the semester that they can apply for on our website as well. So I didn't have any other questions that came in so far. Griffin, was there anything else that you wanted to add in possibly that would be important for families to kind of have? Piece of advice?
The other thing I always want to make sure I mention is if folks are looking at financial aid information, and I mentioned this in senior preview day if folks have been there, it's something our office is always looking to consider is if folks have had any changes in their financial circumstances or situations over the past couple of years, specifically from 2021 to 2022. We are always looking to hear from folks if there's anything that the FAFSA isn't showing us, if there's been a change in job status, if there's been a loss of income from 21 to 22, that's always something that our office is looking to consider. So if anything's coming into your mind, please reach out to our office, reach out to your financial aid counselor, because if there's any special circumstances that folks have, we want to make sure we're taking that into account. So.
Perfect. And then, of course, there's always going to be questions that pop up as soon as the session is over. What is the best contact and who should they contact if they have questions or need help with financial aid?
Yeah, so the best point of contact is going to be your specific financial aid counselor. And what I'll do is put my email here in the chat.
And while Griffin is doing that again, I will make sure to add the contact information into the description of the YouTube video. So for those who are joining us for the recording, we'll still have access and contact information. So we do go by last names. If your student's last name is A through L, then Griffin will be your financial aid counselor, and K through Z will be Stacie Englund, and she will be the financial aid advisor for families with last names M through Z. So thank you. I don't think I have any other questions that came in. And so we'll go ahead and conclude today's session of Lunch with the Boxer. Thank you so much, Griffin and Leslie and Rosio for hopping on. Rosio is here translating for us for our Spanish speaking families, and so they get the same information as well. So we appreciate you hopping on during your lunch hour here, and we hope this was helpful for you. Next week, we have our session with Outdoor Pursuits and Voyages. They are a department on campus, and they put off events called Voyages for new incoming students. And so Justin Hall will be here to chat a little bit about what Outdoor Pursuits is exactly and what Voyages are and why this is important for our incoming students, that they can come to campus a little bit early to go on these trips. So thank you so much, Griffin. Thank you, Leslie and Rosio. And thank you to all our parents and families and students who have joined us to this session. We appreciate you hopping in. We'll see you next week for our next Lunch with the Boxer session. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and take care.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.